Everybody, Earl at thelogbook.com, back for more Voyages of Shelf Discovery with my co-pilot down here. You can probably barely see her. Maria the cat is in attendance tonight, so special guest for this occasion. And I have a new Eaglemoss ship to open up. This one really intrigued me whenever I heard about it, because it kind of goes along with a little trivia factoid that I have always found fascinating, which is that, as originally designed, the USS Reliant from Star Trek II is going to be upside down compared to how we saw it on screen. Now, this is the magazine that comes with the model. Of course, the Eaglemoss magazines are always just an absolute delight, complete with lovely CG renderings of the ship in question, all the specs, and usually some behind-the-scenes factoids and interviews, which is certainly the case here, and it's so washed out you can't see it. But this is actually, it's not a very skinny magazine, considering that the actual appeal of the piece is the model itself. So let's open up the Reliant as it might have appeared if it weren't for the fact that Nicholas Meyer or someone somewhere along the way said, "Hey, you know what would look great if we flipped that over?" So we are accustomed to the engines being below, and the roll bar and the torpedo launcher in the middle of the roll bar. But as you can see here, everything is basically reversed. So you have the engines on top. You have my arm bumping the microphone, because this is, sometimes real amateur hour stuff. And you have the torpedo launchers on bottom, and there's two of them. Something tells me this actually would have been a more dangerous ship, but they wanted to flip it upside down, basically more like what we saw on screen. Of course, Eaglemoss, will sell you a screen-accurate Reliant. And I'm very tempted to get one just to put it next to this one for giggles. And just just have two Reliants that look nothing like each other. So, of course, we have the components of the stand. Always the nice weighted stand. That doesn't feel like coming out. Because why would it? I'm shooting a video. Why would it cooperate? Okay. You know what I remembered this time, folks? Scissors. It had to happen eventually. So we have the stand. Let me get the packaging back in more or less one piece. And the stand. There's always a page in the magazine that shows you how to attach the stand, but it's usually pretty self-explanatory, and that's just, as always, a beautiful little model. I really like this configuration of the Reliant. What can I say? It's a bit more like the Enterprise, and I suppose that was probably something that they saw as a failing in a movie that was going to have a lot of quick-cut action scenes. You needed to be able to differentiate between the two ships a little more readily than two ships with engines on top would have allowed for. So, um, yeah, nicely done. They also have kind of alt universe editions of the Enterprise C. There are like 2 or 3 different alt universe versions of the Excelsior, because the Excelsior from Star Trek 3 went through a lot of design iterations on its way to the screen, including some that had some really funky shapes that were more like something out of Star Wars, such as, kind of an X-Wing thing with 4 nacelles, which, I believe Roddenberry was always like, no, they all have 2 engines. It's okay. They all have 2 engines. And then, all of a sudden the Stargazer pops up in the next generation. But that looks cool, so we'll allow it. But for the Excelsior, no, the Excelsior was not going to have 4 engines. It was just going to have 2 really honking big ones. They have these are usually, what these are called usually on the magazine is concept ships. So they have at least 2 different concept versions of the Excelsior. The Excelsior is really not one of my favorite Starfleet ship designs, so not going to bother with that one. They do have a very intriguing early concept version of Voyager, where they were taking kind of some design cues from the Deep Space Nine runabout, and they did not have the articulated engines yet, which I never really worked out what that was for. It's something about... I think the justification for that was in that terrible, terrible Next Gen episode about how warp engines are polluting space, which I get what they were trying to say with that, but it was so ham-fisted that it didn't really work too well. And there is a concept version of the Enterprise C that is... By the time they had to build a model for yesterday's Enterprise, for the Enterprise C, they decided to simplify it a bit and make it less curves and more angles. The original concept version, which has a bit more in common with the Enterprise D, that's also an Eaglemoss model that you can get. So I kind of like this idea of having... and of course, I've already opened a couple of different shuttlecraft that never made it to the screen. So I kind of like this idea of having this little fleet of ships that... They're kind of official. They were official at some point until someone said, no, let's not. So, there you have it. The Reliant as you never saw it on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more Voyages of Shelf Discovery.